It's time to get educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. Before we start, always hit that share button, please, so we can educate more patriots around the country. Today we start with a startling new poll that finds a majority of Democrats want teachers' unions to have more power and control over their students, their children, than their own parents. This is stunning. We knew that this country was trending a bad way with parents just wanting their kids to go away, to have somebody else to government look after them. But we didn't know what the numbers were. And so the numbers here are pretty starting. I'm going to turn this over to Katie so she can give you some background.
All right, so we're taking a look at a Trafalgar Group survey, and it was done recently. And they ask, it's not just about schools, but they ask a multitude of questions. And one question that piqued our interest here at the Dr. Duke Show was specific, obviously, to education policy. Here's what they asked. Do you believe parents should have greater authority than teachers' unions? Okay, so think for yourself, parents or teachers' unions, in directing the education policy in their local school districts. And as you can see on the screen there, overall, they say 48% should. Yeah, okay, 48% say parents should over the teachers' union. You're thinking, okay, that's okay. But when you look at the actual breakdown, it's scary, because Republicans are saying 77% yes. 3 out of 4 parents say yes, parents should have more authority than teachers' unions. And then you look at the Democrats, and 3 out of 4 almost say, no, the teachers' unions should have more control. And it makes you not at all then wonder why we are where we are with schools, and especially school boards, and how the parents who come and care about their children are being called domestic terrorists.
And I'm really stunned that I could see them saying the teachers should have more control.
No, teachers union.
But the teachers union? Are you kidding me?
That's because no one knows what teachers unions are, or do they just see teachers and unions? And that's...
It must be some wonderful, happy thing. To the surprise of absolutely nobody, the strongest ethnic cohort to prefer teacher union power over parental authority is African-American respondents. I mean, you go back to 1964 and what the civil rights movement and the big government movement did to destroy black families, you see it here again. The strongest ethnic cohort to prefer teacher union power over parental authority is black respondents, who responded at a rate of 74.5%. Literally 3 out of 4 black moms and dads, or moms, I assume there aren't that many dads around. 75% of them would rather have the teachers' unions be the parental force, not themselves. Only 16.3% of black respondents preferred parental authority.
And when you take a look at it and you break it down by age, it's kind of interesting. I mean, the fact that you have 18 to 24-year-olds even being polled on this one, they don't really have anyone in school. They're just coming out of school. So I am kind of like, on their opinion either way. But when you take a look at those parent age, I guess those of parental age, those who would be the ones having the authority over the teachers' unions potentially, the fact that you have 52.9 or 53% in that, I guess, prime area saying, yeah, the parent should have greater control. That's a little reassuring, but it's not reassuring that it's not 100%. I mean, if you are a parent, how is it that you want to turn that control over to a stranger danger, and knowing it's teachers' unions? And again, I guess it goes back to we don't pay attention, so we don't know, so we just shove off the responsibility onto someone. We want to be parents, but not so parental that we actually really have to take the time out of our busy lives. I get it. I'm a parent, and I'm about to go facing this what do we do with schooling question. And when you take a look at everything that we take a look at on a daily basis, well, it makes you want to run away screaming to the hills.
Yeah, and again, the unions, right? I mean, I could sort of see parents being convinced that teachers just love their kids. They're so devoted to their profession. Their teachers are nothing more like surrogate mommies. They bake cookies for the kids, and they love everybody. Social emotional learning, right? But the teachers union, over the course of the pandemic, teachers unions have been a powerful force, the article tells us, behind shuttering schools and forcing children to wear masks. Both of which have been detrimental to their educational and social development, as well as their mental health. Depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation has skyrocketed among children, as well as learning loss and underdeveloped speaking, reading, and writing capabilities. These are the people, you think about how many times we've had Randy Weingarten on this show, the superintendent, the head boss of the one of the second biggest teachers union in the country. She is nothing but a scold. She is nothing but she doesn't care about your kids. What she cares about is what the union wants. She's a boss of a major union. They're not interested in how your clients, the kids are. If they had their way, they'd teach every single day distance learning so the teachers hadn't have to be bothered by it. That's what they'd get away with if they could. It does show really how disconnected so many parents are in this country when it comes to their kids' education.
With all the censorship taking place on social media platforms, we've made it easy to keep up with your favorite content. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app in your app store. Get access to 18 new videos a week, plus thousands of archived shows, lecture series, and educational animations. Download the Freedom Project Media app on your Apple TV, Roku, tablet, or phone, and make sure you allow for notifications to keep you informed.
Within this great and wonderful political system that we have set up, you can recall those who are not doing their job, and guess what? San Francisco, you finally did something right. I am so proud of you. In San Francisco, we were shocked, and shooketh, I say, when they actually just recalled 3 school board members in early February. But now, of course, naturally, those 3 school board members are showing why they were recalled in the first place, and it was all because of that white supremacy. White supremacy again. And so they're complaining. What else is new? Citizens had launched the effort targeting President Gabriela Lopez, Vice President Olga Moliga, and Commissioner Allison Collins last month, alleging that the members were not focusing on schools reopening during, COVID-19, and the fact that they spent their time being like, you know what? We got all these schools up in here, and 44 of them need to be renamed because, white supremacy and politics and all that. This is what they were focusing on. So, of course, white supremacy got him in that recall election, and Lopez went out and tweeted, "So if you fight for racial justice, this is the consequence. Don't be mistaken, white supremacists are enjoying this." And the support of the recall is aligned with this. And then, obviously, because, she's got a lot of time to be on Twitter now, retweeted a post that said the recall effort was funded by Republican billionaires, led by Reopen the Schools moms that used ID politics and anti-blackness to turn out votes within the conservative Asian immigrant community. And thereby, obviously, because as Lopez said, Asian immigrant community came out, it's white supremacy. That's logic. And then we had a parent named Anne Su, who had actually helped register more than 500 Chinese residents in the months before the election. And Anne had noted that this issue was extremely important to Chinese immigrants. So again, how is this white supremacy? I'm still lost. I still haven't found the white supremacy.
Well, you remember our old friend Allison Collins, about three or 4 months ago, we did a segment on her. She was called out because she sent a number of tweets calling out severely Asian American parents. She accused them of being house NIG words, right? Because they didn't fight enough against Donald Trump. When they were asked, many of these Asian families in California, San Francisco, were asked what they felt about the racism of Donald Trump, the white supremacy. Rather than agree with the premise, many of the Asian families said, "What are you talking about? In what ways is he hindering us and our children from succeeding?" And that, in Allison Collins' mind, turned them into NIG words, literally. And when you're going to send texts out in the most Asian city in America, let me repeat that. If you're going to pick the city in the whole country that has the most Asian American kids in it, and you're going to call those families names, revolting names, because they're not liberal enough, you better expect to be recalled.
I'm so glad you brought up Collins, because Allison had to jump on the tweet wagon in this instance too. She said that the recall has emboldened more dehumanization of black folks. And that, here comes white supremacy, former Vice President Mike Pence's opinion on the recall was representative of a dog whistle. And Pence had told students at Stanford University that he had to read the results twice when this recall had happened, because they were in San Francisco, so that makes natural sense. This is what sparked her little tweet. Pence had actually said, this week in San Francisco, parents recalled 3 woke school board members who cared more about renaming schools than reopening them, which is, that's a fact.
So Mike Pence simply relates what happened, and he's a white supremacist. She uses the N-word on an entire race of people who aren't black, and she's the victim. This is so precious.
It really is.
If that's what makes you a white supremacist, Allison, listen, I'm about to get all white supremacist up on your ass, right? And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to say exactly what you just did. You marginalized Asian Americans. You called them the N-word, and for that you were recalled. If that's what makes me a white supremacist, like with Mike Pence, white supremacist be I.
What's interesting here is that the mayor of San Francisco, who has had many issues on her own, basically, I guess in their mind, the recalled school board members' minds, is be a white supremacist. But, I'll just let London Breed speak for herself.
It was really about the frustration of the Board of Education doing their fundamental job, and that is to make sure that our children are getting educated, that they get back into the classroom, and that did not occur. They were focusing on other things that were clearly a distraction. Not to say that those other things around renaming schools and conversations around changes to our school district weren't important, but what was most important is the fact that our kids were not in the classroom. And let's be clear, in San Francisco, for some time now, our private schools were open even when our public schools couldn't get it together. So we have a lot of work to do, and the focus needs to be brought back to our children, and that's my goal in appointing some additional school board members to do just that.
So London Breed drops a truth bomb, right? And that truth bomb says, we had the private schools were open while you couldn't. No doubt in Allison Collins' mind, that's a little bit more anti-black hatred, right? How dare you? How dare you?
Well, and that, white supremacy, obviously, that they continue to claim, came with a real harsh whopping there in the actual recall effort. So I don't think it could have been all white supremacy when each of the 3 were recalled by more than 70%. Ouch.
And
that's not just like 52-48, oh yeah, we're going to recall them. It's like, no, each one of them, 7 out of 10 or more people wanted you gone.
And they were the only 3 that were in a position to be recalled. If all 12 could have been recalled, probably all 12 would have been recalled. That's how bad that school board has messed up what used to be a very good school system way, way, way before the last 20, 30 years.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on all items at MyPillow.com when you use the code Dr. Duke. That's DRDUKE. Support this show by supporting a great American company.
Well, we've talked about the special Facebook doxing, groups that get put out there, especially, Loudoun County, Virginia. I'm shocked we don't have a story about them specifically today, but don't worry, I brought them in just for you. So there was that Facebook doxing group where, for Loudoun County, where parents who, basically cared about their kids' education, the people who were all about the school board and the school would put the parents' names as being insubordinate and being troublemakers. Well, it appears that a private school in Atlanta is allegedly doing something similar. I'm going to say allegedly very strongly here. Allegedly. You'll get to that in a moment. But allegedly, there was communication between two officials at the Lovett School. It's a prestigious K-12 school in Atlanta, K-12. And the communication purports to be between two officials at the school and says it's a preliminary list. And you can see the graphic there where you can see it's like 4 columns which appear to have people's names. They blurred it out. We can't tell what it says. But it's supposed to be a preliminary list of many parents who have been deemed insubordinate. And one staffer wrote that she was disgusted by some of these parents and talked about the need to prioritize our efforts as some have too much influence.
And that's where you are today. Notice the assumptions of the school administration are already that your kids are our kids, that we are the primary educators, we are the primary moral dispensers, we are the primary political shapers of your kids. How dare you, some of you parents, have the audacity to think that we owe you anything, that we owe you an explanation, that you are going to tell us how we're going to raise your kids. And after some time, the school responded to social media reports about having created this list. The spokesperson for the school said the post was, quote, completely fabricated email and list. In other words, completely deny it. Do we buy in that, Katie?
I am. According to the entire thing, if you take a look at what the school did then respond with the social media reports, and again, it's been social media reports, they do claim it was fabricated. In the full response, they said, thank you for reaching out. Let me begin by explaining this is a completely fabricated email and list. Some backstory. As many people know, Lovett and other independent schools in the area have been the subject of slanderous emails, social media, and other messages that continue to circulate. Typically, these messages are from one anonymous person and are always filled with inaccurate accusations and misrepresentations. We crafted the following response earlier this year and stand by it. We welcome constructive criticism, but will not support misrepresentations about our Lovett community. It appears they have taken it a step further by constructing a fake email. We can tell it's fake for a variety of reasons. Our servers do not display emails in that way, and no such email exists on our server. The administrators used in this attack are distraught as they and the school consider all of these families valuable members of our community. Many individuals on this list are dear friends of those who purportedly sent this email. We are reaching out to all individuals mentioned today to convey this same message.
It is time for some real education. This week, we're showcasing our Presidential Minute series. These short videos are designed to educate adults and children alike on our nation's leaders in 90 seconds or less. Today, we're going to take a look at Abraham Lincoln and Andrew Johnson. And let me just say, this is kind of a remarkable thing we do at Freedom Project. We have a school, a really good academy for kids to come online and take our classes. We have a thriving media segment. You're watching it right now, the kind of things that we try to bring to you every single day. Very proud of that. But we also make first-class, world-class classroom resources for kids. None of the sexuality, none of the garbage, none of the apologetics for progressivism. Last week you took a look at some of our battles of America. Now we're looking at the Presidential Minute. We've won a number of awards over the last few years about our animation capacity. We really, really want to do and make more of them. And so take a look, and then we'll come back and talk to you again after.
Let me tell you a little story about a man named Abraham Lincoln. Born on February 12, 1809, he and Lyndon Johnson would eventually be known as the tallest presidents in history, standing 6'4". Raised in a one-room log cabin, he was mostly self-educated. A lover of books, Lincoln served as a lawyer, state legislator, and congressman. In 1842, he married Mary Todd and together raised 4 boys. Sadly, only one lived past 18. On November 6, 1860, Lincoln was elected to the first of 2 terms as the nation's 16th president and one of the most controversial, becoming the first Republican to hold the office. As president, he welcomed 2 more states into the Union, led the country through the Civil War, and signed the Emancipation Proclamation. He also delivered the Gettysburg Address, one of the most famous speeches in history. On April 15, 1865, 6 days after the surrender of the Confederate Army, Abe was shot and killed by John Wilkes Booth during a play at Ford's Theater. 10 days later, Booth was found and killed by authorities. Lincoln was the first president to be assassinated and was buried in Springfield, Illinois. Today, Lincoln's image can be seen on the penny, $5 bill, and Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. And there you go, a little story about a man named Abe. Let me tell you a little story about a man named Andrew Johnson. Born in Raleigh, North Carolina on December 29, 1808, Andrew grew up in poverty. With no formal education, he taught himself how to read and write. At 18, he married 16-year-old Eliza McCardle and together raised 5 children. Andrew's wife continued his education, teaching him algebra and improved reading and writing skills. He later served in the U.S. House of Representatives, Senate, and as governor of Tennessee. In 1864, Andrew replaced Hannibal Hamlin on the re-election ticket for President Abraham Lincoln, which they won. A year later, Lincoln was assassinated while attending a play at Ford's Theater. The next day, Andrew Johnson was sworn in as the nation's 17th president, becoming the first VP to succeed the presidency following an assassination. However, his attempt to fire one of his cabinet members led him to become the first president to be impeached. He narrowly escaped a guilty verdict by the Senate. In 1875, following his presidency, Andrew Johnson was once again elected to the U.S. Senate, making him the only former president to do so. However, a few months later, on July 31st, he died of a stroke at the age of 66. And there you go, a little story about a man named Andrew.
I want to take just one moment here to thank our Patriot Club members for making these videos possible. Obviously, all the Patriot Club members' financial support is what provides the resources to bring these stories to life for all of you to enjoy. And if you are not already a member, please do consider joining our Patriot Club with a $99 gift to support our educational videos, such as what you just saw with the Presidential Minute series. Simply visit patriotclub.us to get signed up. That's patriotclub.us.
And keep in mind that that $99 is tax deductible, so you get a break with Mr. IRS. And that wraps up this show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. As always, she's Katie. Until next time, hey, que pasa, amigo? Stay educated. Muy.